It all started with a fortune cookie. I know, it sounds ridiculous. How can a piece of folded sugar and stale optimism kick off the unraveling of a 10-year marriage? But there it was, lying between a pile of soggy noodles and my wife's suspiciously nervous smile. We were at our usual Friday night spot, Golden Lotus, the kind of restaurant that still hands out pagers and has a tank of lobsters no one ever picks. My daughter, Lily, had just knocked over her lemonade, and my wife, Claire, was pretending to be engrossed in her phone while subtly wiping away sweat from her forehead. I cracked open my cookie and read it aloud, chuckling. "You will soon discover a betrayal in your closest circle." I laughed. Claire didn't. She glanced up, her face suddenly pale as tofu. I thought it was just bad kung pao chicken, or maybe she remembered she'd left the straightener on. I didn't think much of it at the time. We paid. I tipped too much like I always do, and we headed home. The next few weeks were normalish, if by normal you mean suspicious perfume that wasn't hers, long yoga classes that didn't seem to improve her flexibility, and a sudden uptick in gym time despite no visual improvement. But again, I ignored it. Because that's what married people do when they're trying to believe their life isn't about to be set on fire. Then came the missing earrings. A small thing, really, except they weren't hers. And they were in my passenger seat. Claire claimed they were her friend Stephanie's, and I, in the most husbandly way possible, said, "Oh, okay," and moved on. Because that's what you do when you're not ready to ask the question you already know the answer to. But let me tell you this. Denial only works until the plot thickens, and mine was about to congeal into a full-blown soap opera. You ever look at someone you've known for a decade and suddenly realize you don't know them at all? That was Claire. For the next few weeks, she played the role of a loving wife with the enthusiasm of a B-list actress auditioning for a daytime soap. She smiled just a little too hard, laughed just a little too loud, kissed me a little too casually, like she was checking a box on her don't look guilty list. And me? I played the fool with award-winning commitment. I cooked dinner, did the dishes, helped Lily with her math homework, which might as well have been written in ancient Greek, and kissed my wife goodnight, knowing full well she'd wait until I was asleep before texting someone named Coach Ben. Spoiler alert, she doesn't do sports. Her phone was always face down. She suddenly needed privacy when using it, like she was smuggling national secrets instead of watching TikToks like a normal person. The change was subtle. Small things that don't scream betrayal on their own, but together paint a very different picture. She started showering before bed. Not after work, but just before lights out, which wouldn't be weird if we weren't already well past this spontaneous intimacy phase of our marriage. She bought new lingerie and never wore it. At least not for me. Then there was the Thursday she came home with her shirt buttoned wrong, one button off. Not a crime. Not even suspicious. Unless you factor in the faint trace of men's cologne that didn't belong to me. Still, I didn't confront her. Not yet. Why? Because I'm a man who plans. I don't throw punches, I build cases. And while Claire was busy sneaking around thinking I was too dumb to see the signs, I was quietly connecting dots. I wasn't ready to light the match. Not yet. But I was gathering wood. Because in part 3, I find the spark. You ever feel your stomach drop so hard it lands somewhere near your ankles? It was a Wednesday. Midweek. Midlie. I came home from work early. Nothing suspicious. Just a canceled client meeting and a craving for leftover lasagna. Claire's car was in the driveway. Odd. She told me she had a late Pilates class. But who was I to question the sacred art of stretching? I walked in quietly. Not intentionally. I just didn't want to wake Lily, who was napping upstairs. The house was too quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Suspicious quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you tiptoe out of instinct. I heard it then, soft giggling. Muffled voices. Not the TV. Not a podcast. Real voices. Real close. From our bedroom. I froze. My heart did this weird half-beat thing, and then went full metal drummer in my chest. I stood there, hand on the hallway wall, steadying myself, listening. Her voice first, light, flirty, the version of Claire I hadn't heard in years. Then his. A man's voice. Low. Confident. Too confident. And just like that, the pieces clicked. Coach Ben. No, I'm not a violent man. I pay my taxes. I hold doors open. I once cried during a Pixar movie. But there's something ancient and primal that kicks in when you realize someone else is in your bed, with your wife on your sheets. I didn't barge in. I didn't scream. I did something far worse. I walked back out, slowly and quietly, sat in my car, and called my lawyer. I need a PI. I said, voice steady, and someone who knows family court like the back of their hand. That day, I stopped being the clueless husband and became something else, someone you don't see coming until it's far too late. You see, betrayal isn't just about the act, it's about the insult. And Claire didn't just betray me. She underestimated me. And that's gonna cost her. I didn't sleep that night. Not from heartbreak. No, that was a luxury I'd already bled out of myself when I heard their voices. I stayed up because my mind was humming, like an engine just warming up. You see, some people react to betrayal with rage. Others with tears. I react with spreadsheets and legal strategy. By sunrise, I'd already drafted a plan. It was clean, brutal, and above all, legal. I wasn't just going to leave her. I was going to beat her at her own game. First move, collect evidence. I hired a private investigator named Sam Walters. Guy looked like someone you'd never notice. Gray jacket, neutral expression, voice like elevator music. The kind of guy who could sit next to you on a train and know your blood type by the next station. Follow Claire, I said. I don't want rumors. I want proof. Photos. Dates. Receipts. He nodded once. You'll have a report by next Friday. I had to act normal for that entire week. It was harder than I expected. Every dinner was a test in restraint. Every goodnight kiss she gave me, now laced with the aftertaste of someone else's lips, was another reason to stay calm. Lily, thankfully, was too caught up in her own little world of cartoons and coloring books to notice the Cold War brewing behind her bedtime stories. I played my part well. Too well. Claire had no clue I knew. She was all smiles and, "How was your day?" Like she wasn't sneaking around with a man who wore cleats and called himself Coach. That Friday, Sam handed me a file the size of a freshman textbook. Photos of Claire and Ben at restaurants, in his car, sneaking kisses behind buildings like hormone-fueled high schoolers. There was one shot, taken at 2:14 p.m. on a Tuesday, where she was sitting in his lap in a park. Broad daylight. Middle of the week. Like they didn't even care. But the crown jewel? A video of them walking into a hotel together. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring. He was carrying a gym bag. We'd hit checkmate, and she didn't even know the game had started. Next move, the lawyer. Her name was Donna Reyes. A family law attorney with a voice like silk and a brain sharp enough to slice marble. I laid it all out. The affair, the child, the fact that I had every intention of seeking full custody. Donna nodded as I spoke, not once interrupting. Any history of neglect? Substance use? Nope. Any threats or emotional abuse? Not from me. She once told me I'd never find someone better than her, if that counts. Donna smiled like a shark sensing blood. We can work with this. Affairs don't always guarantee custody, but a parent putting their needs over their child's safety? That's something courts notice. Especially when we prove she was introducing this man to your daughter behind your back. That was the ace up my sleeve. Ben had been around Lily. Picked her up from daycare once when Claire was stuck in traffic. And I had the security footage to prove it. Next, I started quietly separating finances. Froze the joint credit card. Moved my direct deposit into a new personal account. Transferred the house's title into a trust, legally sound, ironclad, and untouchable. It was all above board. I even left Claire a modest joint checking account so she wouldn't suspect a thing. I wasn't trying to destroy her. I just wanted her to feel the ground shift beneath her feet. Because up until now, Claire had been dancing on my dignity, tap shoes and all. And now? It was my turn to set the rhythm. The confrontation came on a Sunday. Appropriate, I thought. A day for reckonings. I made her breakfast. French toast, fresh strawberries, a little cinnamon, her favorite. She sat across from me in her robe, smiling like a woman whose secret life was perfectly hidden. "You've been so sweet lately," she said. "It's like you're a whole new man." I smiled. "That's because I am." Her smile faltered. "You know, Claire," I said casually, "I used to think you were the smartest person I knew. Sharp, intuitive, quick on your feet." She laughed nervously. "What's that supposed to mean?" I slid the manila envelope across the table. She didn't touch it. "What is this?" "Go on. You'll want to sit down for this part." She opened it. Slowly. Methodically. Her fingers trembling just slightly. I watched her eyes move, photo to photo, timestamp to timestamp, line after damning line. Silence. Then, "You went through my stuff?" "No. He followed you. You were just sloppy." "You spied on me?" "No," I said. "I investigated a threat to my child's future." Her face twisted into something between guilt and anger. "You had no right." "I had every right. You brought Ben into Lily's life without my knowledge." That's the moment you stopped being a wife and started being a liability. She looked stunned, like the concept of consequences had never once crossed her mind. What? What do you want? Full custody, I said flatly. You'll see her every other weekend. You'll pay child support. I'll keep the house. You'll keep your boyfriend. That's the deal. You're insane. No, I said, rising from my seat. I'm done being the idiot in this marriage. She stood too, eyes blazing. You won't get away with this. Ben's a good man. He loves me. Funny, I said. He left his last girlfriend the moment she got divorced. Ask him. Or maybe ask his wife. Her face went pale. Real pale. The kind of pale you get when you realize the man you risked everything for was just passing through. Don't worry, I said as I grabbed my coat. You'll have time to cry it out. Just don't do it in front of Lily. And with that, I left her standing there, surrounded by crumbs of French toast and the smoldering wreckage of her own decisions. Claire didn't cry the next morning. I know because I watched her through the kitchen window as she stood in the backyard pretending to water the plants, like that rosemary bush was the one who cheated. She hadn't slept. Her eyes were puffier than the croissants I made Lily for breakfast, and her phone was glued to her hand like it held the antidote to her collapsing life. It didn't. All it had were missed calls from Ben. Or maybe now, just voicemail. She didn't know I'd already filed. That the paperwork was already stamped and sitting on her desk at work. Donna Reyes didn't just believe in swift action, she believed in symbolic action. And nothing says you're being erased with legal precision quite like getting served divorce papers during a morning meeting in front of your colleagues. According to my source, okay, fine. Donna's assistant who used to intern at Claire's firm, Claire took the envelope without saying a word, walked into her office, closed the door, and stayed there for 3 hours. That was Monday. By Wednesday, she lawyered up. Some mid-tier family law guy named Leonard Marks, who had a reputation for being aggressive but not particularly strategic. Claire never did understand the difference. Let the games begin. The first court date wasn't dramatic. It rarely is. We were there for a custody hearing, a judge to decide whether Lily would stay primarily with me or whether Claire would get shared custody while the case played out. Claire showed up dressed like someone on a job interview for a position she thought she was overqualified for: pencil skirt, beige blouse, face painted in neutral tones of fake innocence. I wore a dark blue suit. No flash. No emotion. Just quiet, composed fatherhood. Judge Marianne Royce presided, an older woman with a blunt bob haircut and an expression that screamed, "I've seen it all, so don't try to impress me." Donna stood and opened with the calm fire I'd come to admire. Your Honor, we're requesting temporary sole custody for Mr. Blackwell, my client. He is the child's primary caregiver. Ms. Blackwell, she gave a polite nod in Claire's direction, has recently introduced an extramarital partner into the child's life without informing the father, which we believe demonstrates questionable judgment. Mark shot up like he'd been spring-loaded. Your Honor, that is conjecture. There's no proof this man posed any risk to the child. In fact, he's a respected member of the community. Donna smiled like a lioness watching a cub swing a stick. We've submitted Exhibit A, Your Honor. Security footage showing Mr. Ben Holloway picking up the child from daycare, without parental consent. He is not listed as an approved guardian. The judge lifted her glasses. You have this footage? Donna slid a flash drive across the table. Timestamped. Dated. Verified by the daycare. Claire's face went white. Judge Royce leaned back. Well, that changes the math. Mark scrambled to speak. Your Honor, this was an isolated incident. But an illegal one, Donna cut in smoothly. Unauthorized pickup of a minor child by a non-guardian is a legal offense. And while we're not pursuing criminal charges at this time, we do ask the court to consider the pattern. Pattern? Mark said, voice cracking like cheap china. Donna didn't miss a beat. Yes, a pattern of putting personal desires ahead of parental duty. Then she pulled out Exhibit B, a calendar of Claire's known rendezvous with Ben, matched against times she'd told me she was at the gym, working late, or taking personal time to clear her head. It wasn't just about cheating. It was about where she wasn't when she should have been with her daughter. Claire finally found her voice. I'm still Lily's mother, she said, trying to sound composed, but the cracks were showing. One mistake doesn't make me a bad parent. Judge Royce raised a brow. Ms. Blackwell, this is more than a mistake. It's poor judgment, followed by concealment, followed by further dishonesty. Claire opened her mouth, but the judge raised a hand. Temporary sole custody to Mr. Blackwell, she said. Ms. Blackwell will have supervised visitation twice a week until further review. Court is adjourned. Bang. The silence in the hallway after court was thick enough to carve. Claire stood next to her lawyer, visibly stunned, like someone had just told her the earth was flat and she believed it. "Tell him I want to talk," she whispered to Marks, glancing toward me. He passed it on. I nodded once. Walked over. We stood alone near the exit. Just the two of us. Husband. Wife. Opponent. Opponent. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, eyes wide. "Because you thought you could burn the house down and still keep the curtains," I said. Tears welled up. "Ben's gone. He left me. After the papers." "I know," I said. "He was never staying. You were a distraction. A fling. You traded a family for someone who wouldn't even pick up the check." She looked like she was about to fall. I leaned in closer. "I loved you, Claire. But I love Lily more. And she deserves better than a mom who thinks lies are just a softer kind of truth." I turned to leave. But I paused. "You'll get to see her. You'll have time to rebuild. But don't mistake grace for weakness. I didn't start this war, but I will finish it." Back in the car, I called Donna. "We're going to keep pushing, right?" I asked. "Oh, we're not just pushing," she said, already flipping through files. "We're cleaning house." And as I drove home, I looked in the rearview mirror, not at the road behind me, but at myself. The husband I used to be? Gone. The father I needed to be? He had just taken the wheel. Claire didn't take the loss well. That wasn't surprising. What was surprising was how quickly she started falling apart. She was always the composed one, neatly dressed, answers rehearsed, emotionally vacuum-sealed. But after that first hearing, the cracks showed. She missed her first supervised visitation because she overslept, showed up late to the second one, smelling like a brewery. The visitation officer made notes. I didn't have to say a word. Ben? Long gone. Moved cities, according to my PI. Turns out Coach had a history of starting strong and ghosting harder. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Claire tried to call me, text me, email me long, overly emotional essays about how we owe it to Lily to work things out. I didn't reply, not out of pettiness, but because anything I'd say, she'd weaponize. She made the mistake of trying to show up at my house one day, not to see Lily, just to scream on my front lawn about how I was ruining her life. Neighbor across the street caught it all on video. You think karma's slow. Turns out, karma owns a Tesla. Now came the fun part, the money. Claire assumed she'd get half. She hadn't read the prenup in years. I had. We signed it before Lily was born, back when we were just a power couple with brunch plans and ambition. It clearly stated, any assets acquired by betrayal or during infidelity could be excluded from division at the discretion of the court. My lawyer was smart. I was paranoid. A beautiful combination. She tried to fight it, claimed the prenup was dated and unfair. The judge disagreed. Even worse for her, she'd used our joint funds to pay for hotels, dinners, even gas for Ben's car. Donna called it misappropriation. I called it poetic. So I kept the house. My retirement. The investments. She walked away with her car, some furniture, and a yoga mat she never actually used. But the court gave me something even better, child support. The look on her face when she realized she had to start paying me monthly? Beautiful. Like watching a sunset over a battlefield I'd just won. Claire tried to bounce back. She dyed her hair. Tried dating again. Got on social media with captions like, "Healing isn't linear," and "taking my power back." But power doesn't come from hashtags. She couldn't afford her apartment within 3 months. The firm she worked at, well, turns out showing up to work late, crying in the break room, and getting served divorce papers in front of junior associates doesn't scream promotion material. She was asked to take a sabbatical. Never went back. Eventually, she moved in with her sister. Started applying for jobs outside of law. I kept things clean. Didn't badmouth her to Lily. Didn't need to. Kids are smart. Lily started asking why her mom never called when she promised. Why her weekend visits always ended early. I didn't lie. I just told her. Some people are really good at pretending to be ready for big responsibilities until they're not. Claire got quieter after that. The messages slowed down. The emails stopped. Her world had gone silent. Mine? Never louder, never stronger. And just when I thought the final twist had played out, fate gave me one more gift. Claire reached out again. One last time. She asked to meet for closure. I agreed, only because I had something to give her. We met at a neutral coffee shop. I arrived early. brought a folder. She walked in with the air of a woman who'd aged 10 years in two. No makeup, hair tied in a lazy knot. She looked like someone who still hadn't figured out how it all went so wrong. "I know I messed up," she said. "I know," I replied. "I never thought you'd fight back like that." And that was it, wasn't it? She didn't think I could. "I have something for you," I said, sliding the folder across the table. She opened it. Inside was a thick stack of printed emails, screenshots, texts, dated, logged. "I hired a second PI," I said calmly, "months ago. This time to follow Ben. Turns out you weren't the only one." She flipped through the pages. "There was another woman," I added, "in another city. Actually, there were three." Claire stared at the evidence. Each page a small death. Then she saw the last item in the folder, a single letter. Handwritten. From Ben. "Found this in a trash can outside a motel. Guess he didn't mail it," I said. She opened it. "Claire, I had fun, but this was never meant to be permanent. You were too messy. Too emotional. Hope you land on your feet. P.S. Don't call me." She didn't cry. She just closed the folder, slid it back toward me, and stood. "Thanks for the coffee," she said. And that was the last time I ever saw her. I didn't burn her life to the ground. She did that herself. All I did was build the fence to make sure the fire didn't spread to my daughter. Lily's older now. Strong. Sharp like her dad. Kind like I used to be before I had to harden up. She asks about her mom less and less. One day, she will ask me what happened. And I'll tell her the truth. That love is powerful. But respect is everything. That betrayal cuts deepest when it's slow, quiet, and smiling at you across the dinner table. And that her father didn't lose his temper, he used it. People say revenge is a dish best served cold. Nah. Revenge is best served with receipts, a good lawyer, and shared custody. The story ends not with fire, or tears, or violence. It ends with me tucking my daughter into bed, turning off the light, and closing a chapter no man ever deserves, but every strong man survives. And walking down that hallway, I don't feel broken. I feel bulletproof.